If they are so concerned about security, shut up.
Hi, all. Welcome to Royally Unfiltered, the show that takes you behind palace gates like never before. Joining me this week are two of the most respected voices on the British monarchy, renowned royal author and historian Hugo Vickers, alongside the former press secretary to Queen Elizabeth II and King Charles III, Dickie Arbiter. Gentlemen, thank you so much for being here. Dickie, I know that you've raised funds for how am I told you guys I just woke up, so I apologize for spacing, but you've raised money for the Royal Marsden Hospital. Is that correct?
That is absolutely 100%. It's the Royal Marsden Cancer Charity,
Yes.
which is what the Princess of Wales did the challenge on the Three Peaks, which was a marvelous job. I mean, in 24 hours, that's terrific. But yeah, you kindly sponsored me last year, and you're going to get an email this year because I'm doing it again in September.
Yeah. Well,
It's not
I'll
Three
be
Peaks.
sponsoring you again.
It's not Three Peaks. It's a 10-mile horse ride over 3 hours in fancy dress. And you heard it first on Kinsey Schofield. I'm going as Zorro.
You're going as Zorro. Yeah, but
But yeah,
Dickie just mentioned, Hugo, that the Princess of Wales became the first member of the royal family to complete the Three Peaks challenge. You have to summit the highest mountains in Scotland, England, and Wales. You know, this is unbelievable. First of all, I just love that she surprises us with this and goes, "Did it, done." You know, no big hoorah. Doesn't need to tease it so that everybody knows that it's going to happen. It's just done. And she's just a doer. And that always impresses me about her and her husband. Were you surprised by this news?
Well, I
I wasn't really surprised because, sorry, Hugo, you go first.
thank you. No, I mean, I was a bit surprised because it's such an amazing challenge to do. But I mean, what she said, of course, was that she wanted to do something positive, and she met fantastic people along the way. She's, heightening our awareness of cancer and raising money for the Royal Marsden. And I mean, it's really sort of, you know, being positive and actually doing something and really getting out there. In the olden days, the royal family just had to be patron of something, and that was good enough. And this time, she's really taken it a huge step forward. Wonderful. I really admire her. And also, let's face it, it shows that she's well enough to do it, which is also very important, I think, a very important message.
And just to take it one stage further, Kinsey, she was treated by the Royal Marsden, and she wanted to show that A, she was fit, and B, she wanted to give something back to the Royal Marsden. Because it's very important the work that they do. They don't just treat people, they do a lot of research, not just in the UK, they help people abroad as well. So it's an important charity. Now, I've got no idea how much she raised. She knows a lot of rich people, so she would have got a lot of sponsorship for that. But no, it's a terrific job, as Hugo said, and it shows that she is fit, well, and happy to do something for the very people who helped her beat cancer.
It is so uplifting to see. And Hugo, there's also something so sweet. I stumbled upon some photos of her brother James helping her down one of those mountains. I apologize that I don't know which one, but in 24 hours she accomplished a lot. But there's video of her brother James helping her down. There were reports that at least at one stop, that the Prince of Wales and the children were eager to see her and congratulate her after maybe it was at the very end when she completed the mission. But it just shows you that her family is incredibly close and there's so much love and support that surrounds her. And it makes you feel good about the next family. It makes you just feel so good about Prince William and Princess Catherine, when a lot of what we've talked about over the last few years is kind of some dysfunction going on within the bigger royal family.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I've always said that what I think that they're doing is giving those children the best possible freedom and education. They go on school runs, they go to school matches. They're a really good family, and just like the late Queen, who had 10 years before she realised, which because it wasn't going to happen until then, that she was going to have to be Queen one day when her uncle abdicated, and so she had that 10 years of sort of nice unified family to fall back on, and that's what William and Catherine are doing. And as you say, to see brother James there with her as well. I mean, they are a really nice family. I mean, you can't fault them. I mean, it's just everything about this story is wonderful.
It is.
Kinsey, if I can put the sort of the three peaks into context,
Mhm.
the biggest mountain we have in the UK is Ben Nevis in Scotland. It's 4,413 feet. Putting it into context with Mount Rushmore is 5,725 feet. So it's very much bigger. So Ben Nevis is not a big mountain. Scafell Pike in England is not a big mountain. It's only just over 3,000 feet. And Mount Snowdon in Wales is a little bit over 3,300 feet. So they're not big peaks, but they are over rough ground. They're well-worn, well-trodden paths, rough ground. But the fact that she did it and she had the family there, not just to help her, but to cheer her on, is a great achievement.
And Dickie, she's always been athletic. So, I mean, it's just nice to see her getting back to what her passion seems to have always been, which is being outside, keeping active, challenging herself.
Yeah, particularly after she had that tremendous cancer scare and she had that almost a year treatment. She's now in remission and she's showing that she is fit, she is healthy, and she is ready to roll her sleeves up and do more work. And doing this is a very positive move for the Royal Marsden Cancer Charity because at the end of the day, they are the people that treated her and she's eternally grateful to them.
Let's stay on the Princess of Wales because she made a fun appearance today at Wimbledon, delighting fans before a single ball was served. She spent time greeting the dedicated tennis enthusiasts who had camped out overnight, some waiting as long as 7 hours in the famous Wimbledon queue, before even stepping behind the box office to personally welcome lucky ticket holders into the championships. I loved it. She was in a blue suit, had a ponytail, looked just absolutely tickled to be there. She's also a keen photographer and met with children at the Shine Camera Club. This is a photography program run through a charity called Shine Merton. And the young photographers come from disadvantaged backgrounds. And they were invited to capture the excitement of Wimbledon this week, making it a special opportunity for them to learn from one of the tournament's biggest supporters. Hugo, I did see last week or so in the Daily Mail another one of the Wales family, particularly William, needs to pick up some slack. And in my opinion, they've been in our faces lately. Here's a great example of the Princess of Wales pursuing multiple passions. We've seen a lot of her lately. Um, do you I know the answer to this, but do you kind of ignore now some of those headlines about Prince William and Catherine and not doing enough?
I certainly do. I always have done. Unfortunately, as you know, journalists have to keep writing things and they keep coming up with things. And I think we may be discussing a little bit more of that later on, vis-a-vis what's been going on in Scotland or not going on in Scotland. They love to speculate. They love to say he's not doing enough. I go back to what I was saying before. They're spending time with their family, and there's plenty of time for him to step forward, as indeed he will have to one day, and he does not know when that day will come, because that's the problem for the Prince of Wales. He depends on a heartbeat, so if his father suddenly dies, he's king, and then he's right in the spotlight. So give him as much slack as possible, is what I say. I mean, he must be living under great stress, by the way, with all that hanging over him. He had an ill father, an ill wife. He's got three small children. He's got all the other things that Princes of Wales have to think about that you and I don't have to think about too much.
He's a
They
billionaire now. I know. And like while I'm joking about that, that comes with a lot of stress. We're seeing
yeah.
him making some very interesting decisions when it comes to finances that make a lot of sense. But billionaire, more money, more problems. If we're, to quote the notorious BIG, that doesn't necessarily mean he's living high on the hog.
No, it doesn't. Yeah, there are a lot of things to think about,
Yeah,
because they're involved with so many different organizations and charities and regiments and so forth. I mean, I remember years ago when the Queen suddenly said, we've suddenly found a use for the parachute regiment. And I thought, goodness, I don't have to think about that, but she does.
Oh wow, Dickie.
Right. Yeah.
just taking it one stage further, journalists will, as Hugo says, will always write whatever they want to write. They will always speculate. What they don't realize and what they won't accept is, firstly, yeah, he's a billionaire, as you rightly say, but and they will say, well, a billionaire is not entitled to be stressed. Of course they are. But William does a lot behind the scenes, a lot that doesn't get publicized. In fact, this Three Peaks walk wasn't publicized in advance. It suddenly happened and we were told about it. So William does do a lot behind the scenes. He has a lot of meetings, not with just sports people on mental health, but on Homeward with the Duchy of Cornwall about what they're doing about homeless people, selling plots of land in the Duchy in the West Country and investing it in Kennington, which is also Duchy property in London. So let's face it, William is doing a lot. The fact that he's not seen doesn't mean to say he's not doing anything. And he is rolling up his sleeves and he is doing a lot. So, the journalists need to get off his back and get a life.
I totally agree with you. And to our point, we had some beautiful visuals coming out of Scotland this week. King Charles enjoyed a public show of family unity. The king was joined by Queen Camilla, Prince William, Princess Anne, and Prince Edward for a series of engagements, including the prestigious Order of the Thistle ceremony. All the photos and videos I've seen coming out of Scotland are completely heartwarming. You'd never know that there was British media in a tizzy. Hugo, painting Prince William and the King at war over a potential visit from Prince Harry. I saw these videos and photographs come out of Scotland, and I just thought, what a joke. They're there standing next to each other, clearly working with one another. And I don't see this moments away from tearing each other to shreds that the media wants us to believe is happening. Prince William is out there, he's focused, he's doing his job. And I think as long as he's not expected to engage with certain people, he's unbothered.
Well, Dickie will remember a person called Harold Albert who used to write books under the name of Helen Cathcart. Does that ring a bell, Dickie?
It does
No,
ring a bell.
it does ring a bell.
Yes,
Helen
it
Cathcart
does.
was a creation of a man called Harold Albert, and he wrote books, The Queen at 50, The Queen at 55, that sort of thing went on. And they were very, very popular and successful and in their day. What he really annoyed the press office at Buckingham Palace was that he would say things like, the Queen went to have tea with Lady Rupert Neville and they discussed the latest antics of Princess Anne. The point I'm trying to make is that journalists have absolutely no idea what they talked about. When Harold Albert, was taken up about this, he would say, well, that's what they would have discussed. Well, would they? We don't know. Why can't they all just have dinner together instead of being told that it's a summit meeting? The fact that they've got all of them there. I mean, Princess Anne does a massive stuff in Scotland anyway. So does Prince Edward, and they're all in the Order of the Thistle. And that's a very important thing. It's the Scottish version of the Garter. Rather fewer of them. They're only 16 as opposed to 24. But to suddenly speculate and to say this is a summit meeting and that this discussing the wretched antics of the recalcitrant younger son who may or may not be appearing any minute with or without his family, it's so boring. I mean, it's going back to the point that Dickie made earlier about journalists making things up, and I just looked heavenward, frankly.
Well, Dickie, to Hugo's point, we are basing this off of Hugo is responding to a headline. King holds rare family dinner with senior royals amid drama over Prince Harry's imminent visit, and he's just saying like sometimes they have dinner together. The article does hint that they probably discussed Prince Harry, but the reality is like there's plenty to discuss. This is the Princess Anne's got a lot going on there. Prince Edward's got a lot going on there. We're going to talk about one of Prince William's events there. It's not necessarily about Prince Harry.
The thing is that they're all in Scotland. They're all staying at Holyrood on what we call a dine and sleep. They've all got to eat, so they're all going to eat together. So it's not a rare meal. They're all there, so they're going to eat. journalists haven't got a clue what they are talking about, but they make it up. And unfortunately, as Hugo said, people actually read it and believe it. So you can say anything. And the way the Daily Mail did the headline, it's almost as if they knew something that nobody else knew, and a rare meal together. Wow. And people sort of sit back and think, well, don't they ever eat together? Why is this rare? And as far as discussing Harry, they've got more important things to discuss. Harry is flip-flopping. It's a bit like our government, our prime minister that is about to leave office, flip-flopping all over the place. You know, we had this sort of treading the water of Harry coming over.
Wait,
with
we're gonna
Mrs.
get there. You're getting there too soon.
Sorry. Okay.
We'll deep tease till later. Let's stay on Prince William and Princess Diana, because you posted a very precious picture of the two of you in remembrance of her birthday this week on Instagram that I shared. But Prince William, while in Scotland, the title is A Home to Come Back To. Prince William honors Princess Diana's birthday by supporting cause close to her. And before joining his family, I think for the Thistle ceremony, Prince William was in Aberdeen promoting his work with Homewards. And this is his campaign to reduce homelessness. Now, July 1st would have marked Princess Diana's 65th birthday, and Prince William chose to honor her legacy by supporting Homewards, his initiative to tackle homelessness. And it was fun to see. He rolled up his sleeves and to help prepare welcome packages and household essentials for people moving into permanent housing. It was all hands on deck, and it reminds us that this is one of Prince William's most important passion projects and causes. But I did laugh because you see him carrying in chairs, you see him putting these boxes together. And he joked at one point that not everyone needed a hair dryer, which I've got a giggle out of, because he is so great about that self-deprecating sense of humor, talking about his bald head. And for someone who consistently ranks amongst the world's sexiest bald men, it's nice to see that he has not lost his sense of humor. Dickie, you did post about Princess Diana this week. You used to work with Diana. Does it hit you at all when you look at the calendar and you see that it's her birthday and you imagine what could have been 65 years old? Can you imagine Diana at 60 with the grandchildren crawling all over her?
I can imagine her with the grandchildren, well, with William's children falling all over her. I'm not terribly sure, had she been alive, that Harry would have ended up in California. She would have put her foot down on that one. She might well have, Harry wouldn't have even met Meghan Markle. He would have been meeting all sorts of nice English girls, but it didn't happen. You know, that's a different story. You're talking about William rolling up his sleeve, and William, like his dad, is self-deprecating, but he's got a sense of humor with it. He's got a passion about homelessness. His mother introduced him and Harry when they were very young, used to take them round to those sleeping under bridges and in doorways and to the homeless shelters, Centrepoint and what have you. She gave them an urban education. And this has rubbed off. And this is what he's interested in today. And this is what he's done in terms of the Duchy of Cornwall, because he is Duke of Cornwall, although in Scotland he is Duke of Rothesay. But Duke of Cornwall, he's urged them to sell off land. It's upset some farmers because some of that is going to be farmland, and invest the money in Kennington, which is South London. Anybody in America, well, they don't like cricket because they don't know cricket, but anybody watching will know that the famous Kennington Oval cricket ground is there. And it's investing into low-cost housing for the homeless. And it's a good initiative. It's going to take time. But you mentioned Homeward in Aberdeen. That was launched by the Royal Foundation, by him, in 2023. And it's a 5-year program, but I think it's a 5-year program that's probably going to extend for a further 5 years, because it is a tremendous charity and it's doing a lot to get people off the streets and in accommodation. It's a never-ending battle, because as you get people off the streets, more come into London because they think the streets are paved with gold, a bit like Fifth Avenue in America, in New York. But they're not paved with gold, and they get a sharp shock when they do get here and end up homeless, end up destitute. And it's charities like the one that William started, Homeward, it's at Centrepoint, it is another one that do help these people. And my goodness, do they need help?
Hugo, we saw Prince William, I believe it was last week, do a speech during London Climate Week. And it was interesting because he rattled off some statistics about the success of Earthshot and the millions of dollars that have been invested in campaigns that have this tangible proof. I just think it's phenomenal that Prince William continues to provide us with the proof that what he's doing is working. And I mean, it is important because of his role that he say, look, this is what we did, and the result was this positive thing. I think that it's important that he prove his value. But there are other people out there, Harry and Meghan, that are constantly telling us that they're doing good, but they don't have the same results. They don't have that same tangible list of wins that Prince William has. Is that about it being his passion? Is that about him really loving these things that he's pursuing? Or is that about also having a really good team around you to help you execute?
Well, you definitely need a good team around you to execute things. That goes without saying. But of course, there's what I was thinking as you were talking then was, there's a consistency in what he says. He gets onto things and he stays with them, unlike the other two who are continually reinventing themselves the whole time. And I hate to beat the old drum of saying, of course, that he's not doing it for himself. He's doing it for the United Kingdom and the Commonwealth, as all the working members of the royal family are. They're out there taking steps to make things better for the rest of us. And that, I'm afraid, is not the case out in Montecito. So that's the difference.
Well, I think that's fair. I think that's a very good observation. Oh my
the other
goodness.
thing you've got to, sorry, Kinsey, to interrupt. The other thing you've got to take note is that William is the third generation who's taken up the mantle of the environment. His grandfather started in the 1950s, and they all thought he was loopy. What is he talking about, the environment? But he was quite forceful, and he was instrumental in the Clean Air Act, which in the early 50s, long before you were born, you couldn't walk through the streets of London properly because you had a green pea soup of fog. You could hardly see your hand in front of your face. It was so dirty, and he was instrumental in getting governments to do something about it. His son, then Prince Charles, now King Charles, carried on the mantle, and now William has taken it up. So it's three generations, and in the fullness of time, I would imagine that Prince George is going to do the same.
Sweet Prince George. It was fun to see him last week too, with the Princess of Wales honoring some veterans at the RAF Center, and seeing how tall he is, seeing how handsome he is. We are going to have another heartthrob on our hands with Prince George, the way that Prince William stamped, made his own little, I don't know if he liked it. I don't think Prince William liked it, but he did. He was a pop culture icon when he was a teenage boy, American magazines with posters of him inside. I don't think he liked it, but I don't know if George is going to get away from that. I think he might be very popular too. He's a beautiful little boy. Let's talk about the unfortunate too. This headline killed me yesterday because it was Princess Diana's birthday yesterday, and Prince Harry close to tears as he faced fresh setback over UK visit was the headline generated. And I just thought, of course he's close to tears. Of course it's Diana's birthday. Of course he's playing the victim again. He's headed back to the UK, as you both know, but one thing hasn't changed. He still isn't getting the level of security he wanted. Ravik has once again rejected requests for enhanced protection ahead of his visit, leaving many to question whether Meghan and the kids will ultimately come to the UK, or will they be sent back to the US? They're currently vacationing in Europe, so that would be difficult, I think, for them to send the kids off back home and Meghan to stay with Harry. Who cares? Who cares? Like, let them figure it out. But after years of insisting Britain is too dangerous without this taxpayer-funded armed security, Harry is now dealing with the dilemma of bringing Meghan and the kids and looking like, a a hypocrite or not doing it. And in my opinion, continuing to get to play the victim again. Before we go into the in tears section, Dickie, I mean, grow a pair, Prince Harry. What is your take on the security situation? Because you started to go into it and I cut you off, and I want you to have your say.
Well, at the moment, the security situation is when Harry arrives in the country, the security authorities, they assess the threat. And if there is a threat, then they put the appropriate security measures into practice. If there isn't a big threat, they will still put certain security into progress. But he won't get the 24-hour guard, which is what he wants, armed guard, which is what he wants. You talked a moment about hypocrisy, and this hypocrisy that he wants to reconcile with the family. Nobody's saying anything about Mrs. Sussex reconciling with her father. Her father hasn't seen his grandchildren, but Charles has. He's the fortunate one, and the children have been seen by their maternal grandmother. And I think you've got to put this all in perspective. Harry wants to come over. I think his communications people dip their toe in the water to see what the reaction would be. I think Meghan is reluctant to come here because she knows what sort of reception she will get. At the time when they were here for late Queen's funeral, they were booed. And things have happened since then. And I don't think that booing is going to go away. I'd be surprised if she did come, and I'd be surprised if the children came. Harry would do a quick in and out. He'll do his Invictus 1-year launch. He'll do his Royal Hospital, Chelsea, might have a meeting with his dad, and then go back to Montecito.
And he might have to go with his tail between his legs, because on Tuesday they're announcing the verdict in the Daily Mail case. So
they are indeed.
That could be.
He might not even be going back to Montecito, because I understand they've got property in Portugal. So enjoy Portugal.
Yeah, enjoy Portugal. All right. Citing unnamed sources, Hugo, Vanity Fair reported that Harry was devastated and close to tears after learning the full-time police protection would not be provided. You know, if you're cynical like me, you might assume that Harry teased this trip, and as much of this trip as he did tease, because if you do want to protect your family, why wouldn't you keep all of this information guarded until the 11th hour? You might assume that Harry overshared to try to bully the king or the government into giving him his way and giving him that 11th hour, or that protection that he claims now was stripped from him at the 11th hour. He lost a court case about this, Hugo. Why does he think anything else is going to come to fruition? I'm under the impression that he was trying to strong arm his dad into stepping in and helping, which the king has always said that's inappropriate. I'm not going to do that.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, I think Dickie's already made the point that, that he would be protected if he needed to be, because that's what they do pretty much across the board. And a lot of these things are done very subtly behind the scenes. And so it's one thing to want to have this sort of overt, taxpayer-funded, no doubt, security. Why should he? If he's in a royal residence, he's protected. When he came over for the Jubilee or the Queen's funeral, he was within that security ring, which all the others were. He's perfectly safe. It's only when he goes out on his own and does his own thing that there might possibly be some danger. I mean, I didn't have thought he was in any particular danger. What worries me is two things, really. One is I would really like him to personally reconcile with the king on a personal level, but for two reasons. That one, because the king has already told us he doesn't want his last years to be made miserable via Prince Harry's book, I think. And two, Prince Harry's already carrying around a lot of emotional baggage. And if anything happens to his father and he's still on bad terms with him, he's going to go down to another level of depression. And I think that's terrible. There's another thing which worries me very much, which is when those children grow up, and they're, 7 and 5 now, they're going to say, well, hang on a minute. We've had the backs of our heads used frequently for publicity purposes. We've never met, as Dickie pointed out, either of our grandparents to talk to. I mean, if they saw the king when they were very little, they weren't able to talk to him. Now, if they did come over, they would see what they were missing. They're stuck out in California, going to local school. You think of the fun they could have with their cousins, and even if it's like maybe going to Wimbledon or something, who knows? I think they're going to be so angry when they grow up. I think it's going to be the most dreadful revenge, and so ideally they should at least meet the king while they can.
You're right. They're at an age where they would actually develop some memories and be able to remember, oh, we went to the UK, we went to our grandpa's castle or grandpa's palace or whatever. And they weren't when they were super small. I do want to ask you, Dickie, it's been widely reported that the king offered accommodation and that accommodation remains open. Prince Harry's team replied to that to media saying, well, it's one thing to be protected where we stay, but we're unprotected when we leave, and we plan on moving around. There are plans to go to Althorpe and see Princess Diana's grave. And so instead of being grateful, they're being ungrateful, saying, well, it's just not enough. On top of that, it's understood that Harry has yet to even respond to the palace when it comes to staying in a royal residence. That is insulting to me, that they would allow the palace to just wait on hold while, I mean, we're just a few days out from this trip and they don't know whether or not they're going to be hosting a family of four. I mean, this is not the Holiday Inn.
It seems to be their modus operandi that they keep everybody on tenterhooks and they push out, as Hugo said a moment ago, they push out too much information. If you're worried about your safety, you keep stum. You don't say anything. You fly in, you take advantage of whatever security is there, you do your engagements and you push off. You don't tell everybody what you're going to do, what you want to have happen, where you want to stay. A royal residence. I've been racking my brains trying to think what royal residence. If, let's take the scenario that the four of them are coming, Buckingham Palace is not appropriate for two small children because there isn't immediate access to the garden. They would have to have staff on 24-hour standby to cater for them. And economically, okay, the king would pay for it. But it's just not a starter to me. And I was trying to think, where else is there to stay? They could stay in an apartment if there is a vacant one in St. James's Palace. There is access to the garden, but then the king would have them as next door neighbours and he wouldn't want that. There are vacant apartments up at Kensington Palace. William wouldn't want them anywhere near him. So it does narrow the field down. There's Wood Farm in Sandringham, that's a royal residence. It's a bit far from where he wants to go to Birmingham, but he's going to have to travel one way or another. So Wood Farm, it's protected, it's isolated, and it would be ideal.
Interesting. Hugo, to your point about security, I saw early this morning that his team handpicked certain media outlets to share a security report that his team put together that they presented to Ravik. And his team says that there have been some threats, Al-Qaeda being one of the threats, which I immediately go, well, why did you talk about shooting 25 Taliban in your book? Actions have consequences. But there's this new report based on the report that Harry's very one-sided team put together to present to Ravik, that they believe that Invictus is a target. And to me, common sense would say, if Invictus is a target, why the hell is this the trip where you go, and I'm bringing the wife and kids? Like, if Invictus is truly a target and you're concerned about this, then is this not the time for the wife and kids to stay home?
Yes, I agree with you. It is, and I think the whole thing is getting out of hand. But what I dread is that in the next few days we're going to have nothing else to read about except, is he coming? Is she coming? Where are they going to be, etc., etc. Because that's what people seem to want to discuss the whole time. Which is, say, boy, why can't they just stay in Montecito? They wanted to get away. I mean, I hope I'm not contradicting myself, because actually I do want him to reconcile with the king, and I think that's very important. But I think
Well,
that's
you can
probably
do
better.
therapy sessions over Zoom. We do it every week, Hugo. You know
Yes,
what I mean?
exactly. Maybe that's what they should do.
I don't think you're contradicting yourself. But I think Harry is, to try to tell us, well, look, Invictus is a huge target and everybody should be worried because my personal intel says Invictus is a huge target. Well, if that's the case, then I don't understand why you would be bringing your wife and children and putting them in that position.
This is
Well,
all
Chris,
emotional blackmail.
Yeah.
yeah.
It's emotional blackmail in terms of reconciliation. It's emotional blackmail. Well, I'm going to be a target if I come to England. My wife and kids are going to be a target if I come to England. We produce a report. We give it to certain selected members of the media, one of which I think is probably People magazine, because they're in bed in Montecito. I think they've got a spare room there in Montecito. But you know,
Next,
quite
it's
frankly,
next. I can tell you, it's next to Chris Ships from ITV, their bedroom.
if they are so concerned about security, shut up.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead and do the engagement, but don't tell everybody what you're doing. This is one of the things in the old days when I was at Buckingham Palace, they used to announce royals' engagements weeks in advance. Everybody knew what they were doing weeks in advance. Now it's 24 hours or maybe 36 hours in advance. There is no forward information because they're conscious of security. And that's
Well,
the way it works.
like, what a treat to see the Princess of Wales pop up at Wimbledon a little earlier. What you know, it took us all aback and to read that the Princess of Wales climbed 3 summits in 24 hours. You know, there is I think that the 24-hour notice or less, or surprise, we actually did it already. It adds to that mystique, and it adds to that mystery that I do continue to think is so important to the existence of the British royal family.
Yeah, I agree with you entirely on that. You don't need to give out too much information because circumstances can be. I mean, there were times when late Queen engagements were announced, and then she had to back out because she was indisposed, and it disappoints a lot of people, and it adds to a lot of speculation because now we announce that the King has a cancer, he had prostate problem, Catherine had a cancer during the Queen's reign, indisposed, or as we had later in her life, mobility issues. We didn't know any more than that. So they're very much more upfront when it comes to communications. But at the same time, they're also keeping their powder dry and announcing things 24 hours, 36 hours in advance. Northern Ireland, they don't announce at all until either they're there or they've left. And they let certain journalists know when they're there what to cover, but it's not trumpeted for everybody to know what's happening.
To Dickie's point, Hugo, there was a list on Friday sent to select media outlets with a full itinerary of Harry and Meghan's schedule that changed on Saturday once the Sun revealed that Ravik had decided, and this is not a new decision, but Ravik had decided not to add any additional security. I guess Harry then responds, even though Harry's known for a while that his security situation wasn't changing unless he thought something would just happen at the last minute. But aren't you disappointing those charities and now saying, well, I don't even know if Meghan's going to come now, because Meghan is on the agenda to make some of those appearances with him. And as we know, thanks to Senabale, when Meghan comes, it totally changes the dynamic of said visit. And so if I'm one of those charities that's listed on Harry and Meghan's agenda, and I've spent weeks or months, according to some, this trip has been planned since January, I'm very frustrated that they are changing things at the last minute, because I've done a lot of work for over the last few months, or I'm excited because I think I'm going to get some attention for my charity. And there's Harry and Meghan shaking you-know-what up at the last minute.
Well, that's what it's all about. It's all about Harry and Meghan and not about the charities, isn't it? That's the trouble. I don't think they really care about them. It's all their position within the events, and that's the sort of thing. And so once you've got into that mindset, they can be as disappointed as they like. It gets back to the original point of, who's working for who. If they're working for themselves and the rest of the working royal family are working for us. That's really a big difference. It's
Adding to what you just said, Kinsey, yes, people have put in a lot of work since January, when it was first announced that they were coming and where they were going to. But on top of that work, they spent a lot of money, because what charities tend to do, they tend to add a lick of paint to all sorts of things. In fact, sprucing the place up for the royal visitor. I use that word loosely.
Very loosely.
And they do spend a lot of money tarting the place up. And by sort of flip-flopping, toe in, toe out, toe in, toe out, it's not helping the charities. And you'll probably find one day the charities will throw their hands up in the air and say, we don't want you anymore.
I mean, okay.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt. I remember going to India and on a state visit to the Queen, Prince Philip, and I learned very quickly never to lean against a wall because invariably it had just been painted that morning. You must have found that, didn't you, Dickie, sometimes?
Yes.
That's hilarious because remember when Meghan went to New York to promote The Bench, which was the children's book she wrote about her love for Prince Harry. Weird. There was a huge expense to the school that she went to sit down and read the book for. She wanted throw pillows. She made a list her team made a list of ways they wanted to improve the environment or the atmosphere. Because for her, that was a PR stunt. It was a PR move. And yeah, Dickie, you're so right. That was at the expense of the school. And so the Sussexes have been known to do stuff like that. Any thoughts from either one of you before I let you go about the upcoming week, or any predictions? Do we think that we'll see the royals out in full force ignoring Harry's presence? Or what might they lay low because they just don't want to be caught in the crossfire? They don't want to deal with him. What do we think we can look forward to next week?
Well, I think they will just get on with their job. That's just what they normally do. Unfortunately, if Prince William is in one place and Prince Harry is in another, there will be those wonderful journalists who will make a story out of it and try and make it look as though one of them tried to upstage the other. And probably the truth is that neither of them are trying to do that, but that's what will happen. It's going to be very tedious.
Yeah, very tedious indeed. It strikes me that if as Hugo says, Harry's doing one thing, William's doing something else. It's like the old days when the King was doing one thing as Prince of Wales and Diana was doing something else. The media focused on her. But the way Harry presents things, it's a competition, which is the way Diana worked when she was married to Charles.
I know. I feel like Prince William has all of my favorite Princess Diana qualities. Great sense of humor, which we know also comes from his father, especially the self-deprecating. Diana and King Charles are both like that. Just his real empathy and compassion, I think, are Diana qualities. And I think Prince Harry got all of her worst qualities: the scheming, the I know better than you, the vengeful, I'm going to teach you a lesson, you're going to wish you hadn't crossed me. I feel like William got the great qualities, Harry got the not so great Diana qualities that we've tried to bury over the last few years.
Yeah, well, it was them with us. I think William's got more of the Windsor qualities. Yes, he's got some of his mother's qualities, and Harry's got the Spencer qualities, and the Spencer qualities aren't perfect.
Well, Hugo, did you have anything else you wanted to say?
Well, I think I'm afraid to say that I think Prince Harry was doing a pretty good job until a certain lady came into his life, and after that, it all changed. I mean, I picked up I think I told you this before once. I picked up a magazine that was lying on the floor and saw a smiling Prince Harry. I thought, hang on, what's all this about? 2015 was the date, and it was pre-Meghan.
I think I've said this before. His greatest mistake was leaving the army. He was with family that he knew, and they knew him, and there was camaraderie, there was friendship, and they watched each other's backs. Nobody's watching Harry's back except Mrs. Sussex, and I don't think she's even doing that.
I don't feel like he looks or appears like a man that is comfortable in his own skin or feels supported. You don't behave this way. If this is an intentional manipulation, then that's just evil in my book, to dangle grandchildren in front of a grandfather with cancer and then yank the opportunity away. And if it is true paranoia, then that's not, and deep down, you're not a happy person if you're living in that space of consistent paranoia. So I think our observations are fair. And at the same time, there are three of us here that don't wish any harm to him either, and wish he was in a better place and hope he does have a safe trip. But, his actions have just been so bizarre over the last 6 years. And, I've said this a couple of times this week, but to watch Harry Styles jog to Wembley Stadium to perform in front of 90,000 people without armed guards following him, and Prince Harry insisting it's too dangerous for him. If I see Harry Styles on the street, there's a much better chance that I'm going to stop Harry Styles than if I saw Prince Harry. Harry Styles is a dream, but Harry Styles can jog to his 2 hours to his show, and Prince Harry doesn't want to move unless he's got armed guards. It just makes absolutely no sense. And I just think that there's something wrong in the head. And all we could do is pray for him, I guess.
I think his problem is paranoia.
Mm-hmm.
It was a friend of the King's, Sir Nicholas Soames, who after the Diana's 1995 interview on Panorama, he called her paranoid. And I think that's rubbed off on Harry. He's paranoid about security. He's paranoid that something is going to happen to him. Like his mother, she was paranoid that something was going to happen to her. Something did happen to her, but it wasn't through any circumstances other than a drunk driver driving too fast in a car that was unsafe.
Yeah, not paranoid enough to wear a seatbelt, Hugo.
Exactly. If there were seatbelts indeed in the back of the car.
Yeah, there were.
The French always don't obey the law, don't always obey the rules, do they?
All right, agree with us, disagree with us, let us know in the comments below. Make sure you like, subscribe, and share this video with a friend. Hugo Vickers, thank you so much for spending time with me, Dickie Arbiter. I absolutely adore you. Go to Amazon and type in the name Hugo Vickers or Dickie Arbiter and make a purchase. Please support my friends. They're brilliant writers, and I'm so blessed to get to spend time with them, and I look forward to talking to them again very soon. Bye, everyone.